Mark, Donald Trump mentioned a famous Canadian today. How many famous Canadians do you know? No Googling. Come on.
Celine Dion.
Oh, yeah. What did she sing?
Oh, I've got a story about a Celine Dion song.
I'm braced.
I once sung the Titanic song in a karaoke bar in the Philippines. We will talk no more about that.
And how did that go down?
Very, very well,
Boom, boom.
actually. We've actually got the audio and video of me singing My Heart Will Go On by the famous Canadian singer Celine Dion. But I'm not going to allow anyone to let that onto the podcast. I'm Mark Stone.
And I'm James Matthews.
And you're listening to day 54 of Trump100. Putin likes what he sees. US officials are talking ceasefire with the Russians now. Could a Trump-Putin meeting be imminent?
And not in our name, Jewish protesters descend on Trump Tower to defend the Columbia University student threatened with deportation. Mark, we focus a lot on this podcast, naturally, on the politics, the goings-on of what's happening in the White House. But on Thursday, there was a development and a story from further afield, but one that is a direct result of Donald Trump and his policies. Some 150 people descended on Trump Tower, chanting the name Mahmoud Khalil.
Yeah, a really interesting twist in a story that I think cuts to the heart of several issues. Free speech, immigration law, and the rule of law. Is the Khalil case a test case for Donald Trump's respect for the law of the land and the Constitution? We'll dive into that in some detail shortly, but before we do, let's run through what we've heard from the president himself today, particularly on the matter of Ukraine.
We know where we are with Ukraine, and we are getting good signals outside of Russia as to where we are with Russia.
Yeah, another big day in the Oval Office with another big guest, Mark Rutte, NATO Secretary General. The timing couldn't be more delicate, a pivotal moment for Ukraine, Europe and NATO as they try to negotiate a deal, a ceasefire with Vladimir Putin. Steve Witkoff, Trump's special envoy, he's been meeting with Vladimir Putin. That right, Mark?
It is a very, very key meeting. Steve Witkoff is Trump's negotiator, deal-making man in chief. He is such a crucial figure. We've talked about him so much. The real estate mogul who has become critical. And he's in Moscow talking to Vladimir Putin, trying to understand what Putin's perspective is. It's been the key missing part in all of this negotiation over Ukraine. We got a bit of a sense from Vladimir Putin about what he wants in a news conference on Thursday, where he said he had reservations about a potential 30-day ceasefire in the Ukraine war. He was positive about the proposal as great and correct and said that Russia supports it in theory, but he said he had many things still to discuss.
Trump's being tested here, I think, in a game with a grand master. Putin's whole career is KGB structured. Know your enemy, know their weakness, know your end game, and know how to get there, often through bone-grinding diplomacy and all the patience that needs. That's the art of the deal as far as Vladimir Putin's concerned. Trump, of course, is a man in a hurry. He was riffing on aspects of a final deal, talking about concepts of land, power plants and all the rest of it. That is the stuff of the full negotiations possibly to come.
I think what Trump wants is, as we've discussed before, a quick deal. He wants to be able to stand up here in the White House and say, I have got a deal, I have got a ceasefire, I was the only person who could do this. Putin is saying, look, fine, I'm up for a ceasefire, but I'm only up for it if we can tick these various different boxes that, by the way, Ukraine probably won't be up for. What Trump's saying is, let's do the deal now. Let's do the ceasefire deal now and talk about the small print later on. Putin's like, no, I want to do the small print and then I'll agree to the ceasefire. And that kind of gets to the heart of the catch-22.
Mark, at the White House, we had the NATO Secretary General. It wasn't just Ukraine that was on the agenda, though, was it?
Well, I mean, I think from the NATO Secretary General's perspective, he'd like it to have just been specifically on Ukraine, but actually 90% of the impromptu news conference in the Oval Office was taken up with Trump riffing about all sorts of different things, including trade tariffs and all the rest of it. And actually, I was struck by the fact that Mark Rutte really said very, very little. He kind of took the approach, get in there, say as little as possible while the cameras are rolling, get out of there as quickly as possible, make sure there are no big meltdown moments, and then do the crux of the talking behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's become known as suck-uppery, I think, in the White House, isn't it?
And he did a lot of that. I guess it's worth pointing out that unlike all the other world leaders that have come into the Oval Office, Mark Rutte is not a world leader. He's the club secretary, if you like, of the club that is NATO. And so he's very much subservient to Trump. He's definitely not going to go in there and start lecturing him in a way that other world leaders might feel that they can at least push the envelope a bit. He's not going to do that, and nor did he do that.
Sure, yeah. And Greenland came up yet again.
Yeah, this came up as a consequence of a question that was asked, and Donald Trump was, remarkable. He said, I want to take it. We really need it for national security. We do have to have it. What I was interested in was the way that Mark Rutte sort of responded to that, because let's remember, Greenland is a Danish territory. Denmark is a member of NATO. The idea of another NATO member, America, just taking it over. I mean, it's mad stuff. But Donald Trump is deadly serious.
Yeah, Greenland and Canada as land grabs, they sort of started out as a joke, didn't they? But who is laughing now? You had this news conference, NATO Secretary General, Donald Trump side by side, and then you have Donald Trump. He starts tapping him for his help on his own territorial ambition, selling it as a kind of military imperative for all. It looked for all the world like he was actually trying to combine, to wrap Ukraine and Greenland together into a sort of two for one deal. Buy one, get one free.
He didn't rise to that, but what he did do was acknowledge that Donald Trump is right, that Greenland is strategically important, not just for America, but for NATO as well. And I wonder if we saw the beginnings of a deal that could be made to sort of help Donald Trump climb down off this mad ladder that they think he's got on, and say to Trump, obviously, you can't just take Greenland. But you're right, there is something strategic that we could do with Greenland. Maybe as NATO, given that Greenland is effectively part of NATO, being Danish, a Danish territory, we could allow you, America, the biggest partner in NATO, to build more military facilities on Greenland, perhaps to have more of a military and civil presence in Greenland. So like take Trump's crazy point and like put it in a box and say, not that, but how about this? Because, as you say, strategically, it's really important. There are minerals there as well. The Arctic, as we know, is melting. That opens up new waterways. So it's important in a commercial sense as well. And crucially, intercontinental ballistic missiles, if they were to ever, God forbid, be fired from somewhere like China or North Korea towards America, they would go over the top of our planet, over Greenland. So you can see why militarily it is a strategic place. But what Rutte's trying to do is say, Donald Trump, your idea is mad. How about this one instead? I think the Greenland issue and the Canada 51st state thing kind of gets to the heart of the European anxiety here, because they are dealing with a guy in the White House now who doesn't seem to understand the concept of a nation state. He seems to think that he can just buy countries or even extraordinarily invade countries. And that is exactly what Putin did with Ukraine. He invaded Ukraine because he believed that he needed it strategically. So the problem that Europe has got is that they've got a guy in the White House who seems to agree with Vladimir Putin's position that you can just take another country, and that that's a massive problem, because the key broker in the Ukraine issue, is a guy who doesn't seem to understand the concept of nationhood or national identity.
Okay, Mark, let's turn now to the story of Mahmoud Khalil. He's a former student who has been arrested and detained by immigration services for his role in organising a pro-Palestinian anti-war protest at New York's Columbia University. He was a student there last year. That's when we saw protests. The White House now say that Mahmoud is an agitator aligned with Hamas. He's been accused of handing out Hamas flyers during those protests. The government has provided no evidence for that. His supporters say he's a victim of an oppressive authoritarian regime.
Yeah, extraordinary language. And what's interesting is that the sit-in protest outside Trump Tower in Manhattan, which then moved inside in that gold-cladded building, the organization behind it is the Jewish Voice for Peace. And in huge numbers, people arrived wearing red T-shirts that said "Free Mahmoud" and "Not in our name."
Yeah, around 100 protesters were arrested. Some of them can be seen taken off in handcuffs. They held signs reading "Fight Nazis, not students," and "You can't deport a movement."
I'm just standing up for my rights, and I'm standing up for Mahmoud Khalil, who has been abducted illegally and taken to an undisclosed location. Does that sound like America to you?
We are hoping to help spread the word and support the protests that are happening all over the country in support of Mahmoud Khalil, demanding that his unconstitutional abduction be revoked, demanding he is freed, but also calling on people everywhere to speak up now.
I think, Mark, there's more to this story than the story itself, the story about Mahmoud. In this country, the proceedings, as it is now, the proceedings against him, I think, are a test of American tolerance. At the heart of it is the US Constitution, actually, and the First Amendment that enshrines the right to free speech. I think this case is the measure of where that starts and where it ends under this current Trump regime. And the fate of others will turn on what is a test case. It's being fought through the courts. As Trump put it himself, this arrest is the first of many to come. And he cited students who had been, he said, engaged in pro-terrorist, anti-Semitic, anti-American activity.
Yeah, I guess the paradox is that Donald Trump and pretty much all of those within his orbit, that within the Trump movement, are kind of free speech absolutists, aren't they? They believe fundamentally in the right to say what you want to say, and yet here is a guy who was saying what he believed to be right, sticking up for Palestinian rights. He is a Palestinian by birth, born in Syria, emigrated to the United States, achieved a green card, kind of lived the American dream, but fundamentally believed that what the Biden administration was doing in supporting Israel in its war in Gaza was fundamentally wrong. And he was using his First Amendment rights of free speech to make that case at Columbia University. He was the spokesman as well. So he was the figurehead, which is why I think they've gone for him. But it's certainly a test case. And of course, it gets so complicated and so woolly because it involves that issue, that thorny issue of Israel-Palestine and this idea that some people hold on to, that you can't be Palestinian without supporting Hamas, when clearly the two are distinct. Now then, James, I overheard another conversation among reporters in the White House today.
Oh dear.
Oh, yes.
I'm not sure I can take another one. But go on.
This was between a French reporter and an American reporter. The French reporter asking colleagues, the French reporter asking colleagues if they wanted to trade 800 eggs for a bottle of champagne in her fridge.
Oh, very good. The way things are here right now, I'd take the eggs every day.
Right, well, exactly. That is where the trade war has now got to. And the number of the day, James, 200. Do you know why?
It wouldn't be tariffs, would it?
Well, yes, because the new number, the new percentage that Trump is threatening is 200%. That is in itself a retaliation to the EU's retaliation on Donald Trump's steel and aluminium tariffs. Trump is now saying they're going to whack 200% tariffs on EU booze. Big deal.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, big. I can tell you how big a deal that is. Are you a Prosecco man, Mark?
I'm more champagne, James.
Oh, well, let's go. I never doubted that for a minute. But I tell you, well, let's stay Prosecco for now. Right now, you and I, on this side of the Atlantic, spend $15 on a bottle of Italian Prosecco. What do you think a 200% tariff does to that, cost-wise?
More than it's worth, probably. $45.
$45.
Oof.
Would you pay that?
No.
Tough call.
Well, how much? Champagne would be even more then. Anyway, we'll see.
Yeah, well, you can report back on that one. Okay, thanks, Mark. And guess what we found?
What?
Remember at the top of this, we spoke about karaoke.
Oh, no.
And Celine Dion, and you singing Celine Dion.
Oh, dear.
Cue the music. Listen to this.
Near, far,
oh, dear. This was at the end of a very long assignment, an earthquake, and we were driving out of the earthquake zone. It was mid-afternoon, Muslim country, so no alcohol was involved in the making of that video. It was decompression at the end of a hard send, but I didn't expect it to make it onto Trump100, James. Thanks for that.
Oh, well, thank you for being a good sport. Listen, as we play you out to the sound of Mark Stone, ladies and gentlemen, singing the Titanic, that is it for today. Before we go, a reminder to send us your questions for this weekend's Q&A.
Yeah, and do email us. It's Trump100@sky.uk. I can't believe this song is playing. Trump100@sky.uk. Thanks for listening to day 54 of Trump100. Maybe my last day on this podcast, because I think I am sunk like the Titanic, James.
Well played, mate. All the best.
Cheers.